Hello. So today I'd like to talk about um, something very personal to me, my personal experiences growing up. And I've never really publicly discussed my story, but since my part of my story is going to be in the Windy Museum in Culver City, I've started to think about what it means for me to have my story come out and for people to get a taste of what I've gone through and my struggles and my my overcomings. When I was a child, um, I was raised in a poor family. I don't know exactly what our financial class would be. My father was military. My mom was military too, but my father was in he was in Desert Storm in the Navy. He was communications, and he was in well, no, that was Air National. Well, yeah, that was Navy, but before that, he was in the Air National Guard for Desert Storm. No, for Vietnam War. Sorry, I'm just getting mixed up. The Air National Guard first for the Vietnam War, then the Navy for Desert Storm. Now, I've heard there's two parts to Desert Storm. I don't know which one he was in. I remember when he came back home, but um, he molested me and my brother, and he raped my mother. And I found out recently that um, he also raped his ex-wife. And my uncle Jackie was also um, a pedophile, and he served time for it. My father didn't. They didn't do the investigation properly. They did not do a rape kit on me and my brother. There was an incident between my mom and the CPS worker, and my mom didn't call because she thought we wouldn't win the case um, because I was so young when it happened. I was 6 years old, and my mom was telling me today that she didn't call the cops on him because she thought that they wouldn't believe me, being 6 years old, that my father raped me. And but she did enough to at least call CPS and have us taken out of the home. Um, my mom and dad lost custody of me and my brother and sister because of a letter that I wrote to my father when I was 9 years old. Um, we were in foster care for a while. My sister got adopted first, my brother got adopted second, and I was adopted third because I was the oldest one. Um, I remember an instant when I was growing up where I heard I was in my room and I was trying to separate my brother and sister because they were fighting. My brother was hitting my sister over the head with a toy truck, and I took it away from him. And I heard a loud thud in the room across from me, which was our parents' bedroom. And I got up and opened the door and then saw my mom lying on the floor, unconscious, with a gash on her head. She doesn't remember any of this. She has dementia now. She doesn't remember anything that happened, but I do. I remember all of it. I remember my father storming out of the room, slamming the front door, and I remember the tires screeching off out of the driveway. I remember crawling through a hole in our spring window, going across the street for help. And there was at one point a house that was across the street, and there was a lady who lived there who had a lot of kids. That house has since then been torn down, or there was a fire in it, I'm not sure which. But I remember going in the lady's car, riding behind the ambulance. And then the next thing I know, I remember my mom flatlining 3 times on the hospital bed before they got her stabilized. My mom doesn't remember any of this. I've tried to explain this to her, but her mind just will not let her remember. And it's okay. I've tried to make peace with this. But I remember what I remember. And to a certain extent, I have a photographic memory. There are certain things from my childhood that I will never forget. Hopefully not, anyway. I don't want to forget it because it's important to me. I was in foster care for 2 years. Well, longer than that, but I got with my foster mother who'd later adopt me when I was 8 years old. And she adopted me when I was 11. There was a seance in my house when I was 11 years old that my mom agreed upon. It's my sister's idea. I got demon possessed 3 times as a consequence of that seance. And I was the middle child at this point because there were other foster kids there. And I was the one that told them not to do it. I told them, don't do it. It's not a good idea. But my mom agreed to it anyway. And so we did it. It was about this boy that had died that was in my mom's classroom. He had been drowned. He was mentally handicapped and he couldn't swim. And they knew that 3 guys had pushed him in Clare Creek, and he had drowned. And so my sister had this idea to try to figure out who the guys were, which to know to no avail anyway, because with seances, what you think you're going to bring back is not what you actually bring back. My grandfather was a Scottish Rite Shriner, World War II Navy vet, and a Southern Baptist pastor. And he was good to me, but I cannot speak on if he was good to other people, which I do know more, but I'm not allowed to talk about it. Just for their protection. There was more to that though, but he was good to me at least. I was kidnapped twice when I was 19 years old. I was held hostage in a house twice by two different men. One tried to kill me by butcher knife and drug overdose on cocaine, and one tried to kill me by food poisoning. I was probably over 100 times between both men. I got out. They were between 6 months apart. The first time I had to go to detox and rehab, and I got out 3 days before Christmas, and then in June of the next year, it happened again with the second kidnapping. And I was raped on my 19th birthday. And so there were different times throughout my life where I had been, sexually assaulted or essayed by different men who came into the picture. Sometimes I reported it, and sometimes I didn't because I was too afraid. And then in 2017, well, I was homeless off and on for 17 years, I will say that. I dealt with mental illness and still live with it now, but I kept having to move from place to place because of domestic violence or because it wasn't safe. And, sometimes there was just no opportunity for me there to get stable housing. There wasn't a good support system at all. And so I was forced to move. I was married. My father, well, my ex-husband was abusive and emotionally, verbally, and physically abusive, and his family was abusive as well. And eventually I left. I separated from him. I had 4 kids. I had a history of seizures. I had to give them up due to health reasons. But then what led up to this was in 2017, I came back to LA for the 3rd time because I had a gig. So I was going to be in the, I had won a spot to be in the countdown to the Grammys Indie Showcase. So I was in there. And then I got to be in a music video for Avenged Sevenfold. I was in the music video, Goddamn. And you see me with dreadlocked pigtails. I'm in the making of the video for the music video, goddamn, from Avenged Sevenfold. So I got to meet them. You know, it was a really good day. Everybody was professional. There was nothing wrong that happened there except that I almost went into a seizure. But the staff were all very supportive and very attentive to me, and I really have nothing bad to say about that group of people. Their director, their staff were all very very professional. So there was no issue there. Um, Later on, I got reconnected with Avenged Sevenfold, and we started talking. We talked for years. A lot of people didn't know this, but we developed a friendship, and so then that kind of fizzles out. But I meet some new people, and I came across Ashley Purdy by means of this kid on Facebook. He went by Josh Biersack, and I don't think he goes by that name anymore. But I came across Ashley Purdy and was invited to a lot of his friends in the industry. It is still unclear whether Black Veil Brides was actually involved or not, but I have reason to believe that they were. And they publicly tried to distance themselves away from him. They don't want to have anything publicly to do with him, but it is, at least to my understanding, that they still do have contact with him, at least to some extent. But I worked with Ashley Purdy. He had some songs that he had written with some of the guys from Black Veil Brides, and his record label would not release them for him. So he asked if I would release them under my record label that I use, Salem Rose Productions. And I advised him to do it in a way that if he doesn't sell them or mark them for monetary value, that they can't sue him because he's not making any money off of it. So we uploaded the music to my Reverb Nation, and I formatted all the songs and everything to meet the standards for Reverb Nation, because they want all the music to be in MP3 format on Reverb Nation, and he sent me all MP4 format, so I had to format all the songs that he sent me. And he has his publishing on my publishing list. He is under ASCAP. I'm under BMI. He is on my publishing under Goth Heart Productions. It started off okay, but then as I got familiar with him more and more and got introduced to different people who were in there in his little ring, we had moved to Google Hangouts because we needed more privacy and more space to get more people in. And I had a job of buying phones and making accounts for all of his friends and different people who came in who didn't have accounts. And there were all different kinds of people in there, and most of them all celebrities and important figures. And I slowly realized that I was being groomed by them. And they made it seem like there was no way for me to get out. They threatened my family. I heard for 2 years straight, every day, that I was a clone, that I was a sex slave, and a super soldier. I heard this every day for 2 years. And it was all because this one guy on Facebook Messenger contacted me, and he claimed that he was from the cloning center and that I was a clone, which turned out to be false, but I didn't know that. And so I had made the point to tell Ashley Purdy about what I had heard about, and he took that and ran with it and used that to systematically abuse me for 2 years online and over the phone. We had phone calls that we had for, it was usually on a Friday. Once a week, we had a phone call between him and Black Veil Brides and whoever else was on the phone call. Sometimes there would be different people come in, be on the phone call. And so I had to deal with systematic satanic ritual abuse online and over the phone for 2 years straight. And they had me being with multiple people. They said they had my clones, and which they didn't, but I didn't find this out till later. But they would get people who they thought looked a lot like me, that they had taken pictures of, just different fans. And they would tell me that those were my clones, and if I didn't do what they said, that they would kill my clones. And they would say things like, that they were going to take out people who were close to me if I didn't comply. And if I said something that they didn't agree with, then it was considered insubordination. I dealt with this for 2 years. They also had me be with multiple people, and that was one of the rules. And they considered themselves to be the cult of happiness. They called themselves the establishment and the cult of happiness. And everyone in the group, all the women in the group, were supposed to be with multiple people. And they said that this is the rules of the Illuminati. This is the rules of the organization, that you have to be with multiple people. You are not allowed to just be with one person. So polygamy and polyamory was definitely like a prerequisite, or like not a prerequisite, but a must for them, that we had to do this, which I didn't really have that much of a problem with, because I was already polyamorous. I'm bisexual polyamorous. But where the issue comes in is when they start fighting over me. And when I start taking the power into my own hands, and I just get with who I want to get with, and I don't necessarily want to play by their rules, then they have a problem with that, because they want to be able to control the narrative. They don't have a problem with me being with multiple people. They have a problem with not having control over who I'm with. And when they say, well, you have to be with this person, and I decide that I don't want to be with that person because I really just don't like them, or I don't know them that well, don't know anything about them, they have a problem with that too. Try to put me in an arranged marriage. Oh, that was a big thing too. They tried to put me in an arranged marriage, and I didn't agree with that either. And then they'd stalk me in Hollywood. This is when I was at Hollywood Studio Club in Hollywood, California. And they would stalk me in Hollywood. A lot of the people from the group would stalk me. They wanted to make sure that I saw them watching me. There was Justin Bieber, Andy Biersack, Shia LaBeouf. Shia LaBeouf wasn't actually in the group, but I did mention something about Shia LaBeouf, so he did come around. Benji Madden. I knew that I was being watched by Avenged Sevenfold, mostly Matt and Jay. I knew I was being watched by them. I didn't care that I was being watched by them. That wasn't a big deal to me. I knew they were watching me. I didn't care. James Franco, who was friends with some of them, he came around. And I met him at the Downtown Women's Center previously. So, I mean, yeah, that was most of them. They just come around and watch me. And then I'd come back in the group, and then, I'd talk about, I saw you, or I saw this person, and they say, yeah, we know. And like I asked Andy, I said, I saw you, Andy. And he said, yeah, I was going to pick up ice cream or something like that. And it's like, oh, okay. But they always knew where I was at. I was at Sunset and Vine at the fountain, and they always knew that I was at that same spot. They knew where I hung out at. And so they'd always come around where they knew I would be. And they would say that men in black were watching me, and then they knew where I was. And if I made any sudden movements, if I made any wrong moves, that the men in black would come after me. And just all different kinds of things. And I had to deal with this for 2 years. And when I finally got free of it is when they were trying to convince me that I had a chip in my brain. And I told them, I said, well, if my chip is malfunctioning, because I was glitching because of the MK Ultra that I was under, the mind control tactics and the gaslighting and the manipulation and everything. I told them, I said, well, if I have a chip in my brain, aren't you supposed to come pick me up and go and have this chip fixed? And that was when they let me go, because they realized that I knew that I didn't have a chip. And so there were other things involved that I don't know if I'm allowed to disclose or not, just simply because of the nature of the situation and who's all involved. But the names go pretty far up in the ranks, and there was a lot of different big and important people in there that I don't know if I'm allowed to disclose or not, but um, it was pretty intense. And I like to say that I felt safe enough to disclose everyone that was in the group, but the nature of the situation is I don't know that I can. I may have already said too much as it is. But and as far as Avenged Sevenfold, I'm not going to fight the hand that feeds. They gave me a platform, they gave me an opportunity, and I enjoyed myself. And I have no animosity against Avenged Sevenfold. We've had our differences, and they caught me at a really bad time where I was not on any medication. And I didn't really understand precisely what was going on with my situation. But um, it's water under the bridge. I don't know if someone were to ask me if I felt like Avenged Sevenfold groomed me. No, I don't. I mean, they may have prepared me for dealing with celebrities, and definitely I felt more comfortable talking to celebrities after meeting them, but they surely were not the first celebrities I had met. Um, I met Jacoby Shaddix in Sacramento. I met Johnny Depp. I met, all different kinds of people before I met Avenged Sevenfold. So they weren't the first celebrities I had known. Um, I met Miley Cyrus a few times. Met Marilyn Manson. I met a lot of people at the what's it called? The Vans Warped Tour. I met a lot of people there, but you get to talk to them a little bit sometimes. Sometimes you don't get to talk to them at all. Depends on the situation, but most of those were all decent experiences. I met Matt and Ollie Sykes, which was not a very good experience for me. It was those guys are freaking weird. Um, I was propositioned by Matt Sykes, which I turned him down, and I didn't realize that he was Ollie Sykes' brother. And then I met Ollie Sykes in Starbucks around the same area that I met Matt. And this was down on Spring Street in downtown LA. And the Starbucks there is no longer in business, I don't think. Um, I went down there and it's all gone now. But the building is still there, but it's not Starbucks anymore. But I remember making a comment about this guy that was standing there because he was staring at this pregnant girl sitting across from me, and I made a comment that at least he was cute, but I couldn't really see his face. I couldn't see who it was. He was with this other guy, and they went around to the other side to get their drinks, and then that's when he looks at me, and his bandmate looks at me, and I realized, oh, holy crap, it's Ollie Sykes from Bring Me the Horizon, and that's his bandmate there from the band. And he just stood there staring at me like I was a piece of meat or something, or like he was going to sacrifice me or something, like he was trying to decide whether he wanted to sacrifice me or not. It was that kind of look, like, you're going to sacrifice me, or what are you planning on doing? Are you going to abduct me, or what does that look for? I just got this creepy, irky feeling from him. Like he had this really strange aura around him that just was not good. It did not sit well with me at all. I don't like that guy. That guy gives me the creeps. I don't know what he was thinking, but it did not feel good to me what he was thinking. And I stuck my foot in my mouth and I was like, well, I didn't realize I was talking about Ollie Sykes, but I guess I know now. I've had a lot of strange experiences with different people. Now, my experience meeting Johnny Depp, I will say this: Johnny Depp is one really cool dude. I've never had any problems with him. He is cool as hell. Johnny Depp is freaking awesome. He is one awesome person. But I can tell you, I met him when he was engaged to Amber Heard, and he gave me a. I asked him for a hug, and he gave me a bear hug, full frontal bear hug, which is very interesting because I've never known a celebrity do that before, but he did. I think it's because I told him that I felt like, you know, not many people would be out, like being approachable and like taking pictures and getting autographs with people like out on Hollywood Boulevard. And it's not that people don't do that, but most of the time the people you see doing that are all in costumes and they're not the real person. But this one was. He was the real Johnny Depp. However, there are Johnny Depp lookalikes that are on Hollywood Boulevard, but this was not a lookalike. This was Johnny Depp. I know for a fact it was. In my heart, I know it was Johnny Depp. And he was so freaking cool. And I told him that I thought it was really cool that he was out there being so approachable and out in front of Hard Rock Cafe, and that he was getting autographs and taking pictures and talking to fans. That was really cool. And he was a very approachable guy. He talked and had a conversation with me, and it's like when you talk to Johnny Depp, you forget that he is so wealthy that he owns his own island. Like, you don't even think about that. You think about, oh, this is just Johnny. This is not Johnny who owns his own island. This is just Johnny. He's real and raw and authentic, and he's humble, and I absolutely love Johnny Depp. He is an amazing human being. And I enjoyed the time that I had to talk to him while I did. I wish he'd come back. I wish we could hang out sometime. He's just a beautiful soul. And I'd like to have him as a friend if he'd ever come back to the United States. Uh, anyway, so, and I'm talking about all this while I'm still not quite awake yet. I woke up late. Well, I woke up like 6 o'clock in the morning, and then I went back to sleep and woke up at 11. And so I'm like, I finished my breakfast, or brunch really, and I'm still working on coffee, so I'm still not quite all awake yet. But I wanted to talk about my situation and my story because I felt like um, it was important. And I also want to say that I'm pretty sure that I'm probably autistic, and I have ADHD and PTSD, and I've been diagnosed with all kinds of things. I've been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder before. I'm not really sure if I have that or not, but I have had symptoms of it at one point. Um, I've been diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder, which I'm not entirely sure if that's, if I really have that or not either, because they're trying to still decide whether I have that or not, because it overlaps a lot with autism, and autism runs in my family, so it is genetic. Um, I am an artist. I'm a musician. I'm a writer, an author, audio engineer, fashion designer, photographer, all that stuff. Even though I have mental illness, I'm I have a lot of creative abilities too. um, I'm also a Gnostic Christian, so usually when I use my platform, it's talking about the Nag Hammadi scriptures or the Rantia book or the Bible or something like that. And I normally don't come out and talk about my personal issues just because um, I've been too afraid to talk about it because I don't want certain people to stalk me or to find out where I'm at. Um, there are still some people out there who, if they knew where I was, might still try to come after me. But I feel like, I've heard so many people on the cult to consciousness talk about their cult stories and talk about their situations that I feel like if I don't talk about my situation, then um, it's as if I'm letting them get away with it. And I don't want to feel like I have to be silenced my whole life, like I can't talk about what happened to me because it's very real and it's very personal. And my story matters too. And sometimes I feel like I've been through this shit so much that it feels like somehow I deserved it. But I know that I didn't. That's just the mind control and the grooming and the programming trying to tell me that I somehow deserved it. Because after a while, when you've been in there so long, your mind starts playing tricks on you. Like, and you start convincing yourself that somehow you deserve it. So it just makes it okay somehow because you don't really know if you're going to ever get out of there or not. And I finally did break away from them. I did finally get away from them, but it wasn't easy. And I just feel like my story is still important, even though I didn't physically have to deal with anyone. But in a way, I did because they were physically stalking me. So there was that element there. And I do believe that if I'd kept on with it, it would have gotten so much worse. And I'm just so thankful that I got out when I did because I don't think that if I had stayed in any longer, that I do believe that it would have kept getting worse. Um, I don't want to make the assumption that Avenged Sevenfold had anything to do with the situation with Ashley Purdy, but they did tour together. But I know that Matt tried to get me out of the situation. He tried to get me to leave them several times. He was always trying to look out for me. But I just don't know that I could. I was too heavily involved, and I didn't know if I could leave or not. And that's the kind of hold they have on you when you're in a cult. They make it feel like there's no way out because they're going to do this and this and this to try to keep you in there. And they make you believe that there's no way for you to escape. That, oh, well, And I even had a suicide attempt in the process of all this. In the middle of me dealing with them, they triggered me to have a suicide attempt, and I was 5150 for a while. And then they said, well, you survived. Oh, you're here. You cared enough about us that you attempted suicide. Well, you might as well stay. And that's the line that they used to try to keep me in there, to get me to stay in the cult. Is that Ashley Purdy also tried to get me to join the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which they do not like to be referred to as Mormons anymore. He tried to get me involved in that. And I went a few times and then went off on them because I didn't like what they were teaching, and then I never went back. And he didn't like that I left. He tried to punish me because I left the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I didn't stay. And I'm like, to a certain extent, there was this element of cognitive dissonance where I knew that I was in a cult, but like I'd seen the cult list and I knew that Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints was on the cult list. I knew that much, and I knew that what I was being taught to believe was not lining up with my spirit. It wasn't lining up for me what I knew in my heart to be correct or real. And I had been raised in church, so I kind of knew that, like I don't agree with their beliefs as far as the Book of Mormon goes and what the missionaries are trying to teach me to be real. It just didn't resonate with me. I went to a seminar for the Church of Scientology, and I didn't like what was going in there either, and left, and I never went back. And they kept trying to stalk me and follow me and send me emails, they would call me, they would text me, and I just blocked them all and everything. They don't know where I live now. I moved. I'm not in Hollywood anymore, so I don't have to deal with any of it. But like there were like obvious signs of a cult that I just knew to stay away from. But like the one that I was in was not the more obvious one, even though they, it's like most times when you hear this, when you're in a cult's not usually going to call themselves a cult, but the cult that I was in actually literally told me that they were a cult, and I still stayed for some strange reason. Like an idiot, I just stayed until I can find a way out. But they would call themselves the Cult of Happiness. I mean, and they made it very clear that yes, it was a cult, and they didn't hide it. They weren't shy about it. They wanted us to know that you're in a cult and we have control over you, and we make the rules. You don't get a say in any of this. You do what we tell you to do. And it was like that. And well, that's my cult story. And I hope this helps, and I hope this reaches someone who needs to hear it. Most people are thinking about P. Diddy, they're thinking about Jeffrey Epstein, and Harvey Weinstein, all these people, and Bill Cosby, and Will Smith, and Ashton Kutcher, and all these other people. But they're not thinking about the fact that there are people like this and predators in almost every single area of the entertainment industry, if you know where to look. And just because people aren't coming out talking about it doesn't mean it's not there. So I just want you to know, Ashley Purdy is not a good person. And I can say this with utmost assurity, Ashley Purdy is not a good person. That's it.